Welcome back to the Transform Your Mind to Transform Your Life radio, podcast, and television show. In this episode of 5 Minutes with Coach Myrna, I want to talk on the topic of wisdom for the new year. Turn your back on the problem. And I'm going to use as my reference today the story of Daniel in the lion's den. I want to expand on that for you so you can understand the meaning behind this Bible story, because every story in the Bible is meant to teach us something. Okay, you know that Jesus spoke in parables because he was here to teach us with the use of parables. So this story is not a parable, but it has a meaning. And I would like to expand on it. And as we go into the new year, then I want to give you the principle of the story. So this is the story of Daniel in the lion's den. Darius became the ruler over Babylon. He loved Daniel and wanted to make him leader over the kingdom. Some of the wise men were jealous. The wise men knew that Daniel prayed to God, so they tricked the king into making a new law that said anyone who prayed to God would be thrown into a lion's den. Daniel chose to pray anyway, right? He prayed to his God 3 times a day, actually. And the king's wise men saw Daniel praying and told the king that Daniel was breaking the law. The king realized the wise men had tricked him. He tried to find a way to save Daniel, but the king had to follow his own laws. So Daniel was thrown into the lion's den. The king stayed awake all night fasting so that Daniel would be protected. Early the next morning, he rushed to the lion's den. He called out to Daniel to see if he was still alive, and Daniel called back. He says, God sent an angel to shut the lion's mouth, and the lions did not hurt him. The king was extremely happy. Daniel was sick. He punished those wise men who tricked him and ended the law. He taught his kingdom about God's power and God's goodness, because this story shows that if you pray and ask God for help, he will protect you. Now, what I want to do today is expand on this story and kind of unpack it, because the story of Daniel is the story of every man. It is recorded, not in this passage here, but it is recorded that while Daniel was in the lion's den, he turned his back on the hungry beast and turned towards the light that was coming in above while praying to God. He found the light and he turned towards it and kept praying to God. And Daniel's story was written to instruct you in the art of freeing yourself from any problem while you're in the lion's den, right? And normally, when you're in the lion's den or you have a problem, your mind is made up in such a way that all you can do is think about that problem, right? Very few of us have the capacity to turn our back on the problem and look towards the light. And the light is God, and light is the solution. All we can see is that we're about to be eaten, and we fear and we worry, right? But Daniel showed us what we're supposed to do. Turn your back on the problem and look towards the light, which is God. The message in the scripture is when we are threatened by any dire disasters, such as poverty, sickness, divorce, we could remove our attention from these lions and look towards the light of God, which is our solution. Give you an example. If you were imprisoned, no man would need to tell you that the solution to your problem is freedom. Freedom and the desire to be free would be automatic. You don't have to think about it, right? The same would be true if you found yourself sick or in debt or any other predicament. The lions represent any solution that could swallow you up, not necessarily kill you, but swallow you up, right? And the solution is to turn your back on the problem and focus your attention on the promises of God. And this is where your faith moves from something you read in a book to something that you actually do, right? What exactly is the lion in your life right now that's trying to eat you up? We're in a pandemic. A lot of us are dealing with death and sickness. And I know that when you're in a lion's den, it is natural to focus on the lion that is trying to kill you. You must find the strength, though, to turn away and look towards the light and speak. Speaking is very important. And speak into the atmosphere. Speak the scriptures that you are standing on. Scriptures like, I will live and not die. Everything works out for my good. I know the plans that the Lord has for me, plans to prosper me. Okay. And an amazing thing happens when you show no fear and you engage faith. The lions disappear. People who were hopelessly in debt become debt-free. People with incurable diseases become cured within a short space of time. Why? Because you are no longer focusing on the problem, because anything you focus on expands. So when you take your attention away from it, okay, that is the only way that you can get rid of it. And you're not just taking your focus off of it, you're putting your focus on the light, God, the solution, just the light, because we know that darkness cannot survive in the light. So thanks for tuning in to this week's message from Coach Myrna and 5 Minutes with Coach Myrna. I hope you were inspired. I hope that someone triggered. I hope that if you were in the lion's den right now, you have some inspiration of how to move forward and how to handle it. And here's hoping that 2022 is the year that God has designed for you. This is going to be the year that you will move towards the light. I pray this for you. So until next time, namaste.